Welcome to the second video that is on algebra. We first started looking at solving a pattern rule. Now we're going to look at solving one-step equations using algebraic expressions. So if we have something that says 2n equals 10, well, it's simply saying that we have a number in here, and that number can be any number, but we know just by looking at that 2 times 5 would equal 10. So we already know the answer of what it is, but we have to show the math, and we have to show how to get n by itself. And that's the whole purpose of algebra, is making sure that you're isolating the variable, and isolating just means that you've got to get it by itself. So the way that I've been teaching my class this is that we need to think of this on a balanced scale. And what we do to one side is going to affect the other side. So if we were to look at getting n by itself, and we have two groups of n, that's what 2n equals. It's two groups of this number is going to equal 10. And the balance scale shows us that it's in balance, that it's equal. So what we have to do is we have to get n by itself. And in order for us to get n by itself when we're multiplying, what we need to do is we need to divide it by 2. So we divide it by the number of groups to figure out what 1n is equal. So if you're looking at a situation where you've got two numbers being multiplied, anytime that you are dividing those numbers by themselves, they're always going to give you 1. So in this case, 2 and 2, they equal 1. So that would leave us with these canceling each other out, because if you multiply and then divide by the same number, they zero each other out. It's a zero principle. That leaves us with 1n on this balance scale, but 1n equals 10. Now, what I did to one side was I got rid of those two groups up here, and if I just leave this scale the way that it is, it's not going to equal that, because our question said that 2n equaled 10, and now we've only got a single n, so we know that if it was a scale, we would be taking something away from this side, but not anything away from this side, and it would cause this to go down. So in order for us to keep balance, or to maintain this equation and keep it the way that it needs to be, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we need to divide the 10 by 2 as well, and that would leave us with a single n equals 10 divided by 2, and a single n is going to equal 5. Now remember, at the beginning of this lesson we talked about how we already knew that 5 was the answer simply by looking at it. Two groups of 5 is going to equal 10, but I'll write it out so you can see what it looks like. Two groups of 5 is equal to 10. Well, that's the same as 2 times 10, or 2 times 5 equals 10, and we know that we've got the correct answer. Okay, so we've looked at one that is multiplication. Now let's look at one that is, say, addition. Say we have 2 plus n equals 15. Well, we know that this would be 2 plus any number would equal 15. We already know that the answer. So the process actually stays the same when we're doing addition. We're going to try to do the inverse of addition, or the opposite of addition, which is subtraction. So what we have to do is we have to look and see whether or not this number is positive or negative, and that will tell us whether or not we're adding or subtracting. And again, the whole idea is that we've got to get n alone. We've got to isolate n. So if I have positive 2 here, so think you have $2 in the bank, and I need to zero that out. Well, then you need to subtract $2 from it. So I'm going to rewrite my equation to make it look like $2 minus $2, which will zero them out, plus n is going to equal 15. Now, like you saw in the previous slide, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So if I subtracted 2 from here, I also have to subtract 2 from here. And looking at this, if you have $2, positive $2, and you take $2 away, or if it's 2 degrees and you get 2 degrees colder, then these are going to cancel out and they're going to be 0. That's going to leave you with plus n by itself, and that's what we want. So we want to have n, and that is equal to 15 minus 2. And then we can just simply find the answer. 15 minus 2 is 13, and I can check that by simply taking this number and plugging it into here. 2 plus 13 is 15, so we know that we have the correct answer. And I'll show you one more just with regards to, we'll say division this time. So let's say we've got n divided by 7 is going to equal 7. So knowing that I have a division sign, knowing that I have a divided by 7 here, I have to do the inverse of the opposite of division, which is multiplication. So I'm going to be taking one group and I'm going to be multiplying it by 7 groups because I'm using the number 7 here. So if I rewrite this question, it would say n divided by 7 times 7 is going to equal 7. But what I do to one side, again, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to multiply the other side by 7, and that keeps our equation in balance. Well, anything divided by 7, if you multiply it by 7 again, they cancel each other out, and that leaves us with n, single n, equaling 7 times 7. So our n is equal to 49.
When are you finished